Hey, this is Johnny Ohm with my review of Transformers Dark of the Moon, which I saw last night in 3D. I'm going to start with the action. The action, good as ever. Michael Bay is good at blowing stuff up. I think we're all pretty well aware of that by now. He'd be better at action and coordination than actually directing a movie. As for the Transformers, remember in Revenge of the Fallen how Optimus near the end became Super Optimus Mofo Prime? Well, in this movie, not so much. You actually get to see Optimus struggle and actually get kind of in a fix, which is good to see because if he's just super powerful compared to his enemies, you don't have a decent fight. Thankfully, Michael Bay knows that now. And the humans. Humans actually get to do crap in this movie. There's a point in the movie where the Autobots can't help them, so the humans have to fend for themselves. And they do a pretty good job at it, and it looks quite awesome. Even Sam, who has done pretty much nothing in the last couple of movies other than run around, run away from the Decepticons, and just do things that seem minor even if they help a lot, he actually does get to really fight in this one, which is really good to see that happening. Now, the visuals. 3D is excellent in this movie. If there are a few movies you should see for 3D, this is one of them. There were especially this one particular scene where some of the army guys have these little flying squirrel costumes on or something. I know that sounds kind of stupid, but that's the best way I can describe it. And you get to see the point of view of one jumping out of the plane, and then they're flying through the air using these costumes, and it looks really cool in 3D. It's like you're actually flying through the air. And of course the rest of it is explosions, destructions, classic Michael Bay. If there's one thing Michael Bay can do really good, it's blowing stuff up. Now as for the actors, there's two opinions about the new girlfriend. If you walked in thinking she was a ditz, you walked out thinking I was totally right. But if you walked in thinking she was gonna be a little better than Megan Fox was, you walked out thinking not so much. She was a pretty weak character, in my opinion, and a very lame, shameless way to write out Megan Fox. Oh, by the way, for those of you who are curious as to what happened to the character of Mikaela, she broke up with Sam. Really? After all that I love you crap that they put in Revenge of the Fallen, they write her out by saying she broke up with him. Call me heartless, but it would have been better for the plot if they had killed her. For the first half of the movie, Sam is kind of whiny and a bit of an asshole. He's complaining about how other people are hating on his girlfriend, who is at least kind of hot and nice to look at, so why wouldn't they be hitting on her? And he also has a bit of a complaint about wanting to feel important since the Autobots are out saving the world and he has to be home being normal and he wants a job where he matters and all that. And it can get a little annoying. There are a lot of weird perverted characters in the first half of the movie, something I will go into slightly more detail later. John Malkovich plays Sam's boss at whatever company he ends up working at. You hear him making a lot of modern day references. It's kind of weird, but it's also kind of funny. The weirdness is what makes it funny. Now as for the Transformers this time around, there's not as much wisdom coming from Optimus Prime about stuff. I mean, you always know how Optimus will have some kind of proverb to say, but what does he mostly say in this movie after things get to go time? Die! Yeah, it's just not as much whimsy stuff from Optimus as you might be used to, but the action is pretty good, so that's a little forgivable. Leonard Nimoy as Sentinel Prime. Badass. Leonard Nimoy may be getting older, but just the fact that he's older makes his voice sound incredibly badass. And I love it. And I love the role that he plays in this movie. I think they said Shockwave was going to be the main villain of this, but he isn't. It's still pretty much Megatron. I will say though that his pet robot snake thingy, it destroyed a lot of crap. And that was really cool. Now as for the humor of the movie this time around, yes, I can confirm it, the twins are gone, if you were annoyed by them. Personally, I thought they were hilarious, and I thought it was completely blown out of proportion that people would go so far as to call those characters racist. There was a reference in the Revenge of the Fallen review that said, "You're taking your kids to see the lowest form of humor? This is a PG-13 film. This is something you're supposed to think twice about sending your kids to." If parents have complaints, they have no one to blame but themselves, because the movie warned that there'd be raunchy humor in there. Other than that, there are a couple cheesy lines in the movie. At one point, Ironhide, he says, "class dismissed," and it just makes no sense in the moment that he uses it. The humor of the first act is reminiscent of Revenge of the Fallen. I think after the first half of the film was done, Michael Bay remembered, oh wait, this is what I did wrong in the last movie. I need to stop that. I need to focus on the robots and focus on the action, because that's the good stuff. Still though, the first half of the film, and I will only say this, there is one joke in the first half of the film. It was just immensely disturbing, even after you found out the character's true intentions, but the whole joke could have been avoided if the character, who was an Asian man, had not had the last name of Wang. The rest of the film, a lot more serious, and honestly I think that's a good thing. The story, as usual, full of conspiracies, government assholes, and just like the usual you've been used to getting from Transformers. This story feels a little darker, a bit more personal. It feels like there's a lot more at stake. Even though all of them basically said Earth is going to be destroyed, this one goes pretty hardcore into what they're trying to do. There's lots of tense moments in this movie that'll just put you on the edge of your seat a little bit. The climax of the story, I'm not going to lie, the final battle was probably about an hour long. Some reviews stated that it was about an hour long. It's great, it's fun to watch. An hour might be pushing it a little for everyone else. I was okay with it, others might not be. Overall, Michael Bay really remembered how to do things right with his filmmaking in the second half of the movie. The first half, like I said, was reminiscent of Revenge of the Fallen and its humor, but he fixed it pretty well in the second half. Even if the acting is, I'm going to say, it's a bit more bland than it has been in the past. I wish Megan Fox hadn't gotten fired, because it took away a lot of the emotional value to just fire her and then replace her with some new girlfriend who suddenly we're supposed to care about. But professionalism is important when you're in this kind of business, so it's unfortunate that Megan Fox and Michael Bay had their little feud that wound up with Megan Fox leaving the Transformers franchise, because this new girlfriend honestly is not a good substitute. This film is darker than the previous Transformers films, and personally I hope it's the last one. I've liked all the Transformers films so far. This one would be best to end it for good. Again, it's hard to tell where the true climax of the movie is, because the final battle just drags on for a really long time. However, it's nice to look at and got good effects, so you might not mind it. My final verdict, I honestly thought this was a good movie. Some may call it mindless exploding entertainment, but let's face it, the target audience loves that stuff, and that's why this movie is going to be successful, even if critics absolutely hate it. So personally, I think you should go see this movie, and if you have the cash to spare, I recommend 3D. I hope you enjoyed the review, and have a good day.